There are people out there who have power. Who you are, what you are, can change history.
Did I just teleport?
Hey. What happened to you? David, open the door!
This thing that just happened could set me free. But why settle on one place when you could have the whole world?
I think there's something you're not telling me. If you don't want to tell me everything, that's fine. Just don't lie to me.
Must be hard, living like this with no family, friends.
David! Hey, you! If you can hear me, you can come home.
What I'd like to know is how you rob a bank without opening any doors.
And who are you?
You think it could go on like this forever? Living like this with no consequences? There are always consequences.
You think you're the only one? What, into the wall? They're trained to hunt us.
They'll kill anyone that gets in their way. Like your girlfriend.
We have to get her out of there. I can hear you.
This is where it ends. Right here, right now.
Take a deep breath.
Why are you walking? I like walking for a change. Makes me feel normal.
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie. We are part of the Main Damie Network. To find more from us, check out the website, themaindamie.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Main Damie. We are also now a proud member of Geek Fives Nation. You can find them at gbnation.com. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Delvecchio. With me, as always, is Dan Aquino and returning, newly reinstated Mark Myers. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hello. Not the timestamp this podcast, but I got the vaccine, and I'm so glad we're on Microsoft Skype.
Mark has been unfired after last week, so he is back with us. And we have a guest, friend of the show and comic, who's worked with, she told me to mention this, she's worked with Andrew Dice Clay, among others, Jess Sager. Hi, Jess.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I do have a question for you, because I checked out your Twitter profile, and I have a question. Who is your main on Street Fighter?
Ooh. Here's the thing. So, it's the most predictable answer, but I live for Chun-Li. Not just because she can, bounce off walls, but also because, she made it okay to be a woman with thick legs. Ooh. So, from a very young age, I was like, okay, I can rock with this. I like playing with almost anybody. I like E Honda a lot. I was him for Halloween once. I wore a fat suit, and after that, I just wanted to wear it all the time because it was just so cozy. It was really cozy.
Question for you.
I'm listening.
Do you think Chun-Li is the most popular female video game character?
Ooh,
It's gotta be Lara Croft.
I think she should be. I don't know if I would say that she is. I do think Lara Croft is up there. Even Princess Peach in Mario Kart and stuff, I feel like would be up there.
That's what I said. Princess Peach.
Yeah. I also really like Melina from Mortal Kombat. My dream Halloween costume, because the girls in Mortal Kombat, they wear too little clothing for Halloween in the Northeast. It's too cold to be that hoochie. But I would want to be Melina after she ate Goro. That way I could wear the fat suit and be really cozy again. That's like my dream. I have a friend who's like a professional cosplayer, and like I think this year, if like everything is back to normal by then, I'm gonna put her to work making this happen for me. This has been a dream for like a decade of mine, but I haven't gotten to do it yet because I'm not crafty. I don't know how I would put it together.
I love how creative you are with incorporating fat suits. That's very impressive. You go for it.
Yeah, I think was it the last Halloween? It might have been 2018, I think. But I was Frank Reynolds in the Little Beauties pageant from It's Always Sunny. But,
That's awesome.
But the problem is, because of the way like my face just is, people were like, "Oh, are you the penguin?" And I was like, "No, this is just this is just my face." I was like, I get why they assumed it wasn't bad because they were almost the same, but one big difference. And I was like, no, this is just my face. But it was, yeah, that was a fun time. I got to wear my fat suit. It's like a big pillow that's like a tank top. It's great. So good.
Nice. So what we usually start off with was we usually talk about what we've been watching we started this during pandemic thinking, what is this going to be, 3-4 weeks? And
right.
So have you been watching anything? Have you been doing anything to keep you occupied during this unprecedented or now precedented at this point times?
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of true crime documentaries. Did you guys watch, it's on Netflix, the one about the Cecil Hotel?
Yes.
Yeah. So I actually interviewed for a freelance gig that I was doing the executive producer, and I also talked to the guy in the band, that Morbid, that dude.
Oh,
he's like,
wow.
Yeah, and he's like, dude is super nice, because like I didn't even plan on interviewing him, but I just like reached out to him on social media. I was like, it's really fucked up what happened to you. I am so sorry. And then he was just like telling me stuff, and I was like, can I use this? And he was like, yeah, go ahead, whatever. I just felt bad for him. I wanted to give him a hug or something, send him a basket of muffins. Dude went through it, you know?
Yeah.
It was really crazy because people automatically thought, oh, he's definitely the killer, right?
Yeah.
Like, look at his videos. And, you know, like, there were, like, those Norwegian, like, nu metal bands. But, yeah, some of them were killers, for sure. But this guy, he was, like, clearly he loved the music. He created a persona. And it was, I think people just really wanted to figure out that killing and like, oh, this is the easiest way.
Yeah, it's like everyone just wanted to be the hero of that story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the reasons they had for him supposedly doing it, kind of ridiculous. Like, he had a song about, like, I don't know, throwing someone into the ocean. And it's like, you know how many times I've threatened to do that and not done it? You know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous. Let the man do his art. Mind your business.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story of basically Occam's razor. Just like, you know, the obvious answer is probably the right one. It's just
exactly.
She had a manic episode, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because like the psychologist that they interviewed, Judy Ho, she's actually, I learned this recently. She used to be a professional Street Fighter player. She's awesome. She's so cool. But she actually said, she was like, yeah, like this sounds like someone who went off their meds and just had a psychotic episode. She's like, it's sad, but it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
So I've been watching a lot of really uplifting stuff like that.
What about you, Dan? What have you been watching this week?
So I only watched one movie. I watched Shutter Island.
Okay.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very good movie, very well made. But I figured it out pretty quickly.
Oh, wait, this is the first time you've seen it?
Yes.
Okay.
I figured it out fairly quickly. And again, if I'm able to figure out a movie, I feel like that's a bad thing because I'm just not very bright when it comes to picking things up.
Short. You're very smart.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, I still loved it. I mean, DiCaprio is great, obviously. Even like Mark Ruffalo. Like, I'm ashamed to say I never saw Mark Ruffalo in anything other than The Avengers. That was like the first time I ever saw him in anything or just remembered seeing him in anything. But he's a very good actor. He's a solid actor.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, really just, again, watching Old School Wrestling Review. Give them a shout out.
What about you, Mark?
Haven't watched much. I did start a second Diane Lane movie, but I will not discuss it on this podcast here.
Is it Under the Tuscan Sun?
No, I just won't discuss it on this podcast.
Is it Unfaithful?
Is it Unfaithful?
She's not the star in it. She's barely in it.
Is it the Snyder Cut?
The Outsiders?
I'm not going to talk about it on this podcast, Dan.
Oh, so it is the Snyder Cut.
It's the Snyder Cut. Oh, Mark,
I'm taking the bullet, guys. I'm not going to talk.
His next pick is going to be the Snyder Cut.
That's the sound of betrayal, guys. Jess had mentioned it to me. I trust Jess. Every time she mentions a movie, I believe her, because anytime I've watched it, we're usually on the same page, right, Jess?
I lobbied so hard for him to watch Shazam. I was like, it's going to make you feel great. It's going to make you love your life.
And I did. I don't know if I love my life, but at the time,
you can't put that on Shazam, though.
No, at the time I was living with my in-laws, so that's no movie could really save me there. Yeah, I did enjoy Shazam. I thought that was a very good movie.
And we both hated Birds of Prey.
We did, yes. So again, just simpatico right there.
Yeah.
And Jess, you had a pretty good review of the Snyder Cut, so.
Yeah, it was funny. I'm friends with my husband's boss, and he actually texted me, and he was like, Mike didn't like the Snyder Cut as much as you did, but he's afraid to tell you because he thinks you'll divorce him. And I was like, well, he better enjoy his mom's house. I hope he still has his bed there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but it wasn't that serious. Like, I liked it obviously a lot better than the original Justice League. The story was much more cohesive. Everything made a lot more sense, and the stakes felt a lot higher. And it also just showed, like, a lot of the changes that were made. You were just like, because even my husband, who didn't love the Snyder Cut, but he hated the original, like, every 20 minutes or so, he would pause it and be like, what the fuck, Joss Whedon? What the fuck? Why did you do this? It's very different, I think. Like, the story is essentially the same, but there's more background. It's more coherent. It's just better. It's long. It took us, like, I think a total of like 6 hours to get through it because I kept stopping to pee, and then I would like clean my kitchen and stuff. And like I made a roast, and then I came back. I was like, what is?
I think it's very much what I was saying to Dan when I saw him last week, was that it definitely feels like a movie that makes it go from like a 6 to a 7 out of 10.
I think it went from like a 4 to a 7 because I didn't like, I really wanted to love the original. Like, I went in like hoping that I would like it. And at the end of it, I was like, I don't remember anything I just watched, and I'm not even out of my seat yet. Like, you know.
Yeah.
But
I
just gotta say,
it feels like it's basically the same so far. I'm only up to about halfway through, I think, and it doesn't feel as much of a drag to watch as when we watched Justice League for the podcast, Dan.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
It's only time. Like the movie itself isn't a drag. It's just you look down and the bar's not even a quarter full. And it's like over an hour. You know, so it's like that's when that sinks in. But you know, I agree 100% with Jess. It just makes it so far. They filled in little tiny things, and you guys know from on this podcast, sometimes just a line, just a little piece of thing makes a difference. And there's so much they drop in just a single line that I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. Doesn't make it great, but this is a lot. I understand it now.
I told Jess prior to the podcast, Mark likes to make things 15 minutes longer. That's his go-to. So yeah, that's very on brand for Mark.
I don't know if it needs to be 4 hours. I'll probably know that by the end. Well, anything doesn't need to be 4 hours, but the things that they did fill in and the way I think I don't remember, just like Jess, I don't really remember how the first movie was really put together. So I don't know if they recut it to sort of change scenes around timeline wise, but it feels like it flows better through it, you know, and doesn't feel as disjointed. So, but does that make it better? I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we're gonna wind up covering it sometime on this podcast. Seems inevitable, but maybe we'll break it up into 2 episodes. Maybe we'll do a part 1 and part 2. Not this week, but for me, the only movie I watched first time watch was The Trial of the Chicago 7, which was the Aaron Sorkin movie about the Chicago 7, about the guys that put on trial after 1968 Democratic National Convention riots. It was good. It's very Sorkin-y Hollywood, so everyone says the smartest thing they could think of at the right time. There are moments which are excellent. There's moments where it's very kinetic, and they have like this one framing device of where Sacha Baron Cohen as Abby Hoffman is like doing a stand-up, but he's like recounting everything, and they go to it like 2 or 3 times, and it feels like that should have been like the full framing device for the whole movie. It should have been like framed in that way throughout, but they only go to it like 2 or 3 times. But those are great because it's cutting to him, it's cutting to the trial, it's cutting to the actual things that happened, cutting to sometimes it's footage of the actual events, and that was really well edited and everything. Mark Rylance, who plays the lawyer for all of them, was the best part of it. He probably should have been nominated and not Sacha Baron Cohen. Sacha Baron Cohen's got he has the nicety of being Abby Hoffman, so that's the kind of the headline grabbing performance. He's okay. He's kind of like, you know, he thinks it's all just kind of silly and over the top, and you know, but it's really well done. I probably would have preferred to just watch a documentary on it if I knew of like an excellent documentary on the whole situation, because it's a fascinating story of that time period. But yeah, I liked it. And then the only other movie I rewatched for the first time in a long time, Disney's Robin Hood, the cartoon.
Ooh. Oh, that's making a comeback.
Always a favorite of mine when I was growing up. Yeah, we watched that last night.
What brought that on?
It was like, I don't even remember what we were watching before that, but then we were just like, I'm going to put this on because it's on Disney Plus, and I haven't seen it in forever. And yeah, great music in that one. I forgot how good the music is. It's so non-Disney.
Yeah, that's the definitive Robin Hood for me, I think.
It's a toss-up between that and Men in Tights.
Men in Tights, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good point.
I've been thinking of going back and watching some of the more recent Disney stuff because I've been listening to Blank Check is going through the Musker and Clements from the late 80s through the mid 2000s Disney movies, and just listening to them talk about it, going back to seeing some that I haven't seen in a while or didn't see at all, like Hercules and Princess of the Frog and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's funny that you bring up seeing Robin Hood on Disney Plus. Yeah. That's kind of where my head's at just because of that podcast.
There's like 15 years of Disney movies that I didn't see between, I think the first one being Pocahontas to whatever the one before Princess and the Frog. That era is completely foreign to me. I've never seen a single one in between there. And I've only seen Princess and the Frog recently. Maybe one day. Disney Plus is right there. Instead, I just watch nothing.
I rewatched the entire X-Men animated series.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was.
You know what always bothered me about that, Jess, and I'm sure it bothered you? Wolverine never uses his claws on like anything other than a robot.
He wasn't allowed to.
Right. As a kid, I always thought like, oh, you know, he looks so awesome, and then when I grew up, I realized he's like kind of useless in this show. He's just all he does is bitch and moan at Cyclops.
One of the things that drove me crazy was, I think it was like a Christmas special, but like Gambit was cooking, and Jean Grey comes into the kitchen and yells at him and throws him out of the kitchen. I was like, you have the Cajun guy and you're throwing him out of the kitchen and putting a white woman in charge? Like, are you out of your mind?
Right.
I was so angry. I was like, him and Storm are the only people in that house who can season food, and you're throwing him out of the kitchen. This is ridiculous. I was so
even
mad.
For someone who could read minds, she probably couldn't figure it out.
She read his mind and she was like, not enough raisin. I'm going in.
Right. Ooh, this is going to be too spicy.
Yeah, so that's what I watched. We're going to take a minute. We're going to step back, listen to some ads because we got to pay some bills, and we'll be right back. And welcome back. And now it's time to talk about this week's movie. This week was Dan's pick. So Dan, why don't you explain to everybody what you did to us?
Yeah, I'm just going to start by saying I'm really sorry, guys. I thought this was a good one. And I realize I spent a lot of this podcast apologizing. So, yeah, this week I decided to go with another Hayden Christensen movie, because that's always a good start. And I chose the 2008 film Jumper. Not proud of it.
It's okay. Is this the first time you're seeing Jumper?
Second time, actually.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So you've seen. So it wasn't like, man, I really didn't know. I didn't know what was gonna happen. Didn't know what it was about. Didn't know it was chopped up really poorly. You've seen this.
Well, to be fair, how much time had passed since you first saw it?
Right.
The first time I had seen it was in 2008.
Okay, so,
It's 13
you may
years
have
ago.
remembered it differently.
It's a different time.
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
Well, let's go with that.
That's true, Dan. You don't remember things that happen in D&D 6 weeks in between sessions, so
There's a lot of things
13
I don't
years
remember.
is going to be a lot.
Look, it was the last year of the Bush administration, man. That was a long time ago. It might not seem it,
like
but
there
it's
was a
a
lot
long
of shit
time
that
ago.
went down in between. It's not. Don't beat yourself up over this.
We accepted a lot as a nation then, and just this was one of them. We thought this was okay.
Hayden Christensen leading man. We
Right.
accepted that.
Well, the people spoke. Apparently, this made bank. So
Just not in America. Well, it didn't do terrible in America.
It didn't do bad.
It did its budget relatively. But let's go to Jess. Jess, where are you coming from with Jumper?
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was fine. Like it's the kind of thing where like I could see it coming on like TNT or something and I would watch it like if it was on, I really liked the one character Griffin because he has that really like chaotic energy.
Mm-hmm.
I liked
Jamie
him.
Bell.
Yes,
Jamie Bell.
I thought he was good. There was a lot of stuff about the story that I just thought was like weird though. Like
Gotcha.
and I didn't think that Millie and David had any chemistry together, which is weird because like they actually went on to date in real life and like have a kid together and shit.
Yeah.
They were
They
together
were
for like a while.
engaged, right? They were engaged at some. What about you, Mark? Where are you coming from? Have you ever seen this before?
And who is in this movie?
Oh, it's Rachel Bilson. So you saw this 3 times.
I have seen
in theaters.
this movie. No, not in theaters, fortunately.
We have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah. It's one of the rare things that I am not embarrassed to say is in my DVD collection. It is not in there. I do have Triple X by Vin Diesel in there, though. But the thing I remembered most was this was the phase in like near the end of college that I don't really do anymore. Was if there was an actress that I thought was pretty or attractive or whatever, I would watch the movie just because they were in it. So I've watched a lot of really terrible movies and things Dan will probably pick as we do more 2000s comedies. So that was the reason I saw this movie. And what I remembered before going into it, I realized I didn't remember any of it outside of the really dumb way they sort of try and put a story in there, but they don't really go to full like explanation of it. So I don't remember what's actually going on, and that came back to me instantly. But all the locations and things didn't ring a bell until I went through it again. But I 100% agree with Jess. I have no idea what they saw in the screen test between Hayden Christensen and Rachel Bilson, but there was nothing there. Glad to see it again, just so I can make sure it's not one of those movies that I go, wonder how Jumper is. I haven't seen that in a while. So now, thanks, Dan. I got that out of my system.
Anytime.
One thing, like with Millie and David, that bugged me. She kept being like, "You can't be a banker. You failed algebra. You flunked algebra." And I was like, listen, like I also flunked algebra, like more than once. Like you can still be fine. It's okay. Like why? Like it's so weird that she's harping on this. Like I don't remember anyone else's grades in anything from when I was in high school.
Right.
Yeah. It just reminds me of a joke that someone wrote and thought it was funny and just kept pushing it to be in the movie. You know?
Yeah.
Just sort of, yeah. It's like, this is funny. Look, get it. See, algebra, math. He wouldn't be good at banking. Ha, 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 ha.
I know plenty of people who were like, not the brightest tools in the shed, but they've gone on to succeed in things that they might not have been good at first.
Right.
A lot of people in high school, newsflash, didn't care about high school.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
It's like, oh, you flunked algebra. Okay, you're a bartender. Like, there's nothing wrong with being a bartender, but like, stay in your lane in this particular space. You know what I mean? Like, don't, like, who are you?
It was this movie's way of telling us that our hero, our love interest, thinks is an idiot.
Yeah, like, as someone who is in remedial math for like my entire existence, I think I just took it very personally. I was like, listen, you don't need to be good at math to be a banker. You just need to like stealing money, and he's really good at doing that.
I wish that
Sorry,
was
I'm socialist.
I wish that was like a little PSA at the end, like just so you know, kids, it's okay to not be good at math. You can still succeed.
Yeah, like just get like a TI 86 or whatever it is, and just let that do it for you. You don't need this stuff in real life. It's fine.
We've had a lot of fun here, kids, today. But you know it's not fun. Algebra. It's okay to suck at it.
Yeah.
Right.
So for me, this is the first time I've ever seen it, and I'm pretty sure, I could be making this up in my head, I'm pretty sure this had like a lower third graphic that played during sports on Fox like incessantly, and it was just Hayden Christensen jumping into the screen and then jumping out of it, and I remember it would like play constantly. I could be making this all up as far as I remember.
I could definitely.
I can definitely see the marketing team being like, "Oh, this will get them."
Yeah. Back when like Fox would just go nuts with their on-screen graphics after commercial break. Probably played on like the NFC Championship game or something like that. I didn't hate this movie as much as I thought I was. I liked about 60%, but as soon as Jamie Bell showed up, and conversely, I started to dislike this movie quite a bit. Not necessarily because of him, because it kind of just fell into generic sci-fi action movie sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Just like, we're going to jump here, and then we're going to have an action scene here, and then jump here, and we're going to have an action scene here. Hayden Christensen is really handsome, and it's a shame he's not very charismatic. That's one thing yeah, they have no chemistry, but yeah, they were rough. I also kind of like the fact that he wasn't really a hero. Like, he was kind of an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's that one scene when you first see him when he's grown and an adult. He's like flicking through the channels, and there's like this mudslide somewhere, and it's basically the newscast is like, oh, if only someone could get to those people. Right. He's like, well, that's not me.
He doesn't even consider going.
Yeah. And then also another asshole thing he did was like in the beginning, like he has that blonde chick like still asleep at his apartment, and he jumps and goes surfing. I was like, you are so disrespectful. That's rude. So rude. I hope she steals all your shit.
You know what I didn't understand? He runs away at a pretty young age, right? He's in high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's 15, I believe.
Right. He comes back. He comes back what, in his 20s?
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's grown quite a bit. Everybody recognizes him somehow.
Yes.
He's high school, man.
Everybody recognizes him, and their first question isn't like, what happened?
Yeah.
The cops searched that river for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We saw you go in the water.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone is just like, oh, hey, like they haven't seen him in a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone knows who he is. No one asks like, oh, do you have like permanent brain damage from the oxygen that did not go to where it was supposed to go while you were underwater for God knows how long. Like, it was just weird.
I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything, right? I didn't miss anything.
No.
They were like, and it's weird because it was like, it was in Ann Arbor, but they treated it like a small town. But Ann Arbor isn't like a small town.
I guess to most people, that's what they think it is, right? Ann Arbor is just like a little cozy neighborhood.
Yeah. Like, because I know the books took place in like, so like, it wasn't like his high school sweetheart. It was like some girl he met at a play in New York, but she was from Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I guess in that context it would make sense, like if they saw him around or something. It was just weird. I don't know. But I was like, I remember I was in like my sophomore year of college, I think. Or ours, because Dan and I are the same age. We went to school together. And I don't want to say the name because I don't want to embarrass this person. But I went to a bar with, Corey Perez and Brian Glenn.
Yes.
Remember them? So, these are just friends that we graduated with and grew up with. So I went to a bar with them.
Inside joke guys. Too bad.
And then some other guy that we also went to high school with was there, but I didn't recognize him. So I introduced myself to him to be polite. And he was like, I'm XYZ. I can't believe you don't know who I am. But it was because he lost like 70 pounds. I did not recognize him at all. And I felt like a complete asshole.
Oh, I've done that. I did that at a movie theater. I remembered him, and I just like, hey, I don't remember your name. I am so sorry. And he said, oh, that's okay. And like, you could just see the look of, wow.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. I knew everyone else around him, people we went to high school with. Again, I knew everyone else around him, but him,
you could just couldn't place it.
I'm sorry, man, I don't remember your name. Yeah, and that was quite embarrassing.
That happens with stand-up too. Like there are some people, I think I'm just more memorable because there's usually fewer women on any given show than men. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of people remember me, but I can't differentiate them. And then I feel really shitty about it. Like I've introduced myself to people that I've met like 20 times. Fuck. They get so mad at me. But I'm like, there were like 20 white guys in the same outfit on the same show. Like I'm usually drinking. I'm sorry. Like
sure.
It's on them to not stand out. Stand out a little bit more.
I was like, maybe if you had better material, I would remember who you are. Maybe that's
damn. And these are all people that you didn't think died 8 years prior.
Yeah. Like
you didn't see them go into the Hudson.
Like that would have cleared up a lot of things. If that bully Mark guy was like, "Hey, man, it's you, Rice Bowl. I thought you died."
Yeah. Also, like I did think like the Rice nicknames were a little weird. Like
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's a way to insult somebody. Call them something delicious. Like
and I think the only one that mentions he might be dead is the mother. Millie's mother. It says something to the effect of I didn't believe her when she said you weren't dead or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. She always said that you were still alive or something like that. You know.
Yeah.
Apparently Eminem turned down the lead role in this movie. Can you
get
imagine
out of here?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, he was offered the role.
I mean,
pretty smart move.
It would have been better without him, with Eminem, to be honest.
It would have been weird.
I wonder if that's why they wrote it to take place in Michigan, because he's from Detroit. Right. Maybe they wrote it for him, and then he was like, yeah, no, 8 miles enough for me, thanks.
The screenwriter is from Ann Arbor, Michigan. So he actually set it to take place in his own high school, which is weird. Oh. He must have been popular.
That's a weird flex.
Yeah. I'm gonna set this in my high school because that's where my picture still hangs in the rafters or something like that.
I'm surprised they didn't show that or like a quick shot of it.
Yeah, right. Just pan across.
Him like nailing a 3.
Yeah.
And another thing that kind of bothered me about this movie, and they explain it towards the end, where Hayden Christensen's character David says to Samuel L. Jackson's character Roland that he's special. But nothing throughout the movie really differentiates him from like Jamie Bell's character, Griffin. Because if anything, Griffin is by far the better jumper out of the two.
Yeah.
Until the end.
But, and then all of a sudden he becomes like an Omega level mutant and he can teleport entire structures.
Yeah.
Why wasn't that fully explained? Like you could kind of see him building that power, you know?
It's just another Mary Sue, bro.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I just thought that the whole special thing, I read it as him saying that he doesn't turn evil like the rest of them do.
Right.
You know.
Okay. Which is possible. Oh, because he said he could have dropped him off with the sharks.
Yeah.
But he still essentially kills him because he leaves him in like the Grand Canyon.
Horseshoe Bend, but yes.
Okay. Sorry, Aunt.
Some of us have been to both.
I was gonna say I'm not as well traveled as some of us on this podcast.
Some of us knocked those 2 in a span of a week.
That's pretty impressive that you could figure that out just from like a couple seconds. Is it really that popular? Is it like that well known?
It's pretty distinctive. Okay.
Yeah. Well, fuck
me. That's for our travel podcast on Patreon.
Speaking of traveling in this movie, this is so minor, and I don't even know if anyone else noticed it, but it bothered me in the beginning when they're kids and they're like at the girl's locker. And she has like the list of the places she wants to go. She spelled Prague wrong, and I caught it, and I was mad about it.
What annoyed me is the snow globe was of the Eiffel Tower. And then they make a point where he said, when they finally meet up again, that they say that, oh, maybe I'll go to Rome. And then she was like, oh, it was the one place I really wanted to go was Rome. I was like, why wasn't the snow globe just the Colosseum? Just to tie it all back together.
Oh, that would have been really clever.
Yeah. Like, we never even go to Paris, ever.
They couldn't find a snow globe with the Colosseum in it.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford to shoot in Paris. That's why.
Probably not. Shot in 14 other cities, though.
I hated the editing in this movie. The way they edit the jumps was just so... It like gave me a headache.
Yeah.
Because it kind of went from... They would show the jump to just pretty much signifying that he jumped with a quick jump cut.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, this is so lazy at times.
It definitely felt like it was a movie that was probably a little bit longer, to be honest with you. Because this is it 90 minutes? I think it might be a little bit shorter.
89, including credits. Because I always check because I pee more than a pregnant woman, so I like to like to space out.
You gotta time it out.
You know? Yeah. I like to be prepared for what I'm going into, and I was like, oh, I can definitely do this.
This is a 1P movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jumper from 2008 is directed by Doug Liman, who directed Swingers, Go, The Bourne Identity, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Edge of Tomorrow, and The Wall, among other. He's done a lot of TV as well. Written by David S. Goyer from the 2013 novel, the same name, written by Stephen Gould. He's also written, get ready for it, Dark City, Crow, City of Angels, all 3 Blade movies, all 3 Christopher Nolan Batman films, Man of Steel, and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. He's got quite an impressive list of movies.
Wow, yeah.
Both of these guys have impressive lists.
Yeah, these are heavy hitters. Starring Hayden Christensen, Samuel L. Jackson, Rachel Bilson, Jamie Bell, Diane Lane, Michael Rooker, Anna Sophia Robb, Max Therio, and Kristen Stewart. IMDb score 6.1. Rotten Tomatoes score of 15%. Wow, that was rough.
What's the audience score? I'm curious.
It was not great either.
You would think that there would be a kind of a disparity, Jess?
I feel like there usually is, but it might just be because I like trash. So.
Well, you've come to the right place.
44. So there's still a disparity.
3 times as good.
Yeah.
I think they lost a lot of points for Samuel L. Jackson's hairstyle.
Oh my God, yes, that bothered me so much.
He popped up, you thought it was Cisco for a second?
So
He just kept the bald.
Yeah, this whole movie is supposed to be Cisco and Eminem.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been great.
Oh my God, that would have been great.
I'd watch that movie.
Budget was $85 million. Box office made $80 million in the U.S. and $225 international or globally. So that's pretty good chunk of change. It made some good scratch. You guys want to get into the plot?
You can do that.
Yeah. Dan, what do you got for us this week?
Just going to give a quick shout out to our friend Tia and her podcast Top 10 with Tia. Tia and her co-host Brittany discuss top 10 lists. You could find her at TC_Stark on Twitter, and she is also on Geek Vibes Nation. She also writes for them, so please go check out her articles, even the Zack Snyder ones. Go check them out. But yeah, she's a good friend of the podcast, and we just want to give her a shout out.
Great. And we are going to take a quick break while you listen to some messages from friends of the podcast, and we will be right back.
Hey, this is Ken M.
Padawan J.
Coach Duffy. From the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast. Every week, the ODPH is talking sports, movies, TV, comics, and more. It's always a parlay of topics on each episode. You can find the ODPH on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you find great podcasts, such as the one you're listening to right now. Don't forget to check out OchoDuroParlayHour.com, where you can find the links to all of the ODPH social media accounts, links to the bands whose music you hear each week on the show, hashtag 607 podcast info, and parlay points, our companion blog section of the show. Thanks for listening to the ODPH. Now get back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Welcome, travelers. Seems like you're looking for a story. Well, I got one for you. It involves adventure, friendship, and all sorts of...
Earl, why don't you tell him about that time I stole that big-ass melon?
Yeah, I was going for more...
Or you could tell him about the time I kicked her ass, Earl.
I wouldn't ever tell him.
Do I need to get my ref gear on?
Okay, everyone, shut up. Now come with me as I tell you a story from afar. Hey everybody, my name's David. I'm the DM for From Afar Podcast. From Afar Podcast is all about 4 friends separated by distance, but brought together by adventure. Hope you all stop by and give us a listen. Thanks.
And welcome back, and now it's time to get into the plot for Jumper. We open on a VO from Hayden Christensen bragging about all the places he's been that day right off the bat. What kind of accent does he have?
Trying to do Midwest?
I don't know. He's from Vancouver, and I feel like he's trying to do some sort of northeastern accent, but I don't know.
Which is weird because he's in Michigan.
Right. Yeah. Right. I don't know. I couldn't place it. I wasn't sure if this is just how Hayden Christensen talks, and it's like his favorite TV star is Vinny Chase. I don't know. He's like trying to do a Queens thing.
Yeah. He would have been better off doing a transatlantic accent from like the 50s movies, and it would have made more sense.
I wish he would have went for like the full, like Wisconsin and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, I'm a jumper.
Yeah.
I'm a jumper from the Youper.
Yeah. Go to the Packers game, eh? Oh, that would have been so good.
I mentioned this before we started recording, but something that really pissed me off about his early voiceover, he was like, yeah, I got digits from a Polish girl in Rio. And I was like, that is a waste of a trip to Brazil. You're an idiot.
Right.
Yeah, skipped out on like the Brazilian women for the girl you could have went to Poland and met.
They're too again. They're too spicy for him, I'm assuming.
Yeah, like I used to work with a band and I toured with them a bit, and I wouldn't go to Brazil with them because I was like, I'm going to hate myself the entire time that I'm there. I was like, I don't want to be around it. Like, let's go, enjoy yourselves. Tell me about it when you get home and get tested, and then tell me everything that happened.
Take plenty of pictures.
Yeah.
So he mentions he's been to Paris for the coffee, Maldives for the surfing, Kilimanjaro, as well as Brazil. And he's standing on top of the Sphinx as we hear all this.
All that before lunch.
All that before lunch, and I think they might have just gotten they were allowed to shoot at the Sphinx for an extended period of time, because we go there a lot. And we flash back to when he was a kid. His name is David, and he's your regular awkward teen, and he has a crush on Millie, played by Anna Sophia Robb. He gives her a snow globe of Paris because she wants to travel. Then her bully of a boyfriend, Mark, takes the snow globe and throws it on a frozen lake, so David has to go retrieve it on the ice and falls through. He panics under the water, struggling to find his way out, while Millie tries to get help. Eventually, he accidentally discovers the power for the first time and winds up in the Ann Arbor Public Library.
This is one of the first, as much as this movie has plot holes, is that, do we establish that he goes to the Ann Arbor Library a lot? Like, is that like, why?
Yeah.
He jumps places he's been.
Yeah, imagine you're about to die and the last thing on your mind is the Ann Arbor Library.
Yeah.
Man, I'm really going to miss the library.
Well, that actually... So, thanks to the opioid epidemic, I never knew this until I, read an article about it. But apparently, libraries have just, all librarians have to, carry Narcan on them now because people keep overdosing in front of the library in a lot of places.
Wow.
It is nuts. Sorry, that got real dark. But
well,
that was that went through my mind when I was watching this.
I guess in front of or in the library, because in the library it's very secluded, I'd imagine, right? It's quiet.
Yeah. So apparently what happens is homeless people will hang out there and junkies. I don't like calling them that. They're people with a disease.
Sure.
But that's how they were referred to in this particular piece. And it's the opioid crisis is so bad that these people don't know where else to go for help because a lot of them can't afford rehab and their insurance won't pay for it. So they're like, where can I go where I won't get arrested, but someone may help? And they just end up at the library. Maybe they think someone will take a book out and be like, oh, I know exactly what to do. It's right here.
Right.
So he goes there, and then he walks home to your go-to actor for a drunk, abusive dad, Michael Rooker. His mom left when he was 5. His dad starts questioning what happened to him because he's soaking wet. Still, after that long walk, I assume he's just sopping wet. David locks himself in his room, and then he jumps when his dad knocks down his door, winding up back at the library, which is closed for the night. He just loves books. I think that's the one thread that was cut out of this movie, just how much he loves to read, but he can't do math.
I was going to say, he should have checked out an algebra book.
Yeah.
It's where he met his tutor every Wednesday at the library.
Yeah, but hopefully he's getting his money back because that's a bad tutor, according to everybody else, or Millie at least.
Yeah.
I wish that would have been a better running joke where everybody knows he's terrible at algebra.
Right? Yeah.
Even Roland, Samuel L. Jackson, just the way that you jump, you must have been terrible at algebra. Wait, what?
Yeah.
His his apartment where he's got all the money also just has stacks of algebra books he's stolen over the years. So one day I'm gonna crack it. And then like there's a post-credit scene where he passes his GED because he never graduates, right? Because he was 15 when he runs away from home.
Yeah, like how could he not have flunked algebra if he was never in school?
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, he probably flunked English and bio too because he wasn't there.
He flunked everything. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. He never completes high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to see him just like leaving the test center at the end, and they freeze frame on him just doing the fist pump in the air.
Just ripping off Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
So good.
And then he jumps.
Yeah. Then he jumps into the screen, and then I guess everyone goes whoa, and end of the movie.
I watched that. So he jumps back to his room and realizes he can more or less do this at will. His dad, meanwhile, has called the cops regarding his missing son, which was super quick. And then David decides that he's going to run away, just like his mom. So before he leaves, he pays Millie a visit and leaves her the snow globe, but disappears before she can see him. And he's off to New York City and checks into a Flophouse motel room. Starts testing out his jumping ability in Central Park and accidentally jumps to the Empire State Building when he thinks about the time his mom brought him there when he was a little kid. And he decides to rob a bank, which is a thing you do.
In this scene, the bathroom is right next to the vault.
Yes,
is
he's
that
got to
a
walk past.
thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like usually not.
Yes, sir. Come right this way, past the millions of dollars that we have, and that is clearly open.
That's not a normal setup for a bank.
It can't be, right?
No.
Usually, it's got to be in the lobby. No.
Yeah. Well, because usually the vaults are like behind, like the tellers. Like there's a room behind them. So like anyone who goes back there, like they see you.
Sure.
That was weird.
That would have been great if they just lead him behind the tellers. Like, yeah, just go behind the tellers. You'll be fine.
Or it was just like, oh yeah, it's right there, right near the door, the front door. His whole plan revolves around the fact that this bank has a weird layout and that he's got to walk past the vault to go to the bathroom.
That he had no idea. That's the first time he walked into the bank.
Yep.
So just happenstance that, oh, thank God. It's right
there. Fucking movie doesn't make any sense.
Nope. That's the one part that makes no sense.
So he decides to rob the bank and he jumps into the safe when it's closed, bringing several bags full of cash and valuables back to his motel room, showing no sign of subtlety or restraint. Couldn't just be like, I'm going to grab a couple hundred right now, no one's going to notice. And then Samuel L. Jackson shows up to the bank later, saying he's part of the NSA investigating the bank robbery. Samuel L. Jackson looked a lot like Cisco with his blonde hair. He's demanding tapes of everything from the safe for the last month. And we flash forward to the present. And David is now just a straight up criminal. And he's got an apartment just filled with stolen goods. And he could go anywhere, so he decides that he's going to go to a pub in London. But first, for some reason, he just decides he's going to go on top of the Big Ben just to show off for us, I suppose. And then he goes to a pub and picks up a blonde woman. Meanwhile, he gets noticed jumping by Jamie Bell. And then after he takes the blonde back to her place and they have sex, he does that pensive look out the window thing and then leaves while she's asleep. And then goes surfing. To go surfing.
Rude.
But then the first surfing is shit. So then he goes to Fiji and surfs there because they got 30-foot swells, bro.
It's gotta ride the waves. Yep. I don't know surfer talk. That was my stab at surfer lingo. It was really bad.
It'll pass. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
I think this is when I realized how careless he is with his jumping.
Yeah.
Because there's two other people surfing. I think they're going to realize that this third guy miraculously disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you would think that you would want to be somewhat careful, right, when you're displaying such powers?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also get the idea that maybe he thinks he's the only one that can do it, so people aren't going to realize would happen. Okay. It's like, oh, was that guy actually here? You know.
Yeah, that's
sort of
true.
Thing.
Or is this just like a fever dream kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also really tedious with it. Like, it's like he'll just jump like 2 feet forward. Like, man, just fucking walk. Like, we get it. It's not like that cool.
When he's in his apartment and he won't even go from his couch to the fridge. He won't go down his stairs. And I'm like, your muscles are going to atrophy.
Yes.
Like, that's like being on bed rest for, like, your shit turns to jello. You're not going to be okay. I don't know. It was weird. It bugged me. Like,
Jen said the same thing. Like, he would be so fat.
Yeah. Like,
there's
unless like jumping like burns like 800 calories. I don't know.
Right. He jumps from one side of the couch to the other side of the couch because the remote's there.
Yeah, like, come on, man. Jesus.
I mean, I get what they're trying to do there is just show like how he's perfected it at this point, and he just, I guess he just uses it. But real world implications would say, you're not going to be in good shape.
Yeah, and it just makes him look like a dick.
Yeah.
Like, it was hard to root for him because I was like, no, like, I think you're sort of a prick. I don't.
Yeah.
Like,
it's very douche chilly.
Maybe they should catch you, like, just because you're annoying. You're not using your powers for good.
So let me just ask real quick, and I'll start with you, Jess. What would you use that jumping power for?
Ooh, I support him robbing the bank. I would do some Robin Hood shit, I think. Ooh, where else would I go? I don't even know. I'm like a homebody. I would just use it to skip traffic to places I would go normally, I think.
Yeah.
That's not a bad
like,
idea.
if I introduce myself to somebody I already knew, I think I would jump out of that and just go.
Oh, shit. Look over there, Bamf.
Yeah.
Wasn't Jess here?
Right. Wait, who? What? No.
I would do it to scare these guys. I would scare Anthony and Mark. I would just do it to like randomly pop up right behind Anthony's shoulder there, so you could just barely see me. It would serve no purpose other than just to scare them. That's it.
Yeah.
But like now your job market is the entire world. It's like, the commute is nothing. I want to work in Prague or I want to work in London.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and he only has the one apartment, right?
Yep.
That's terrible. He should have apartments everywhere.
He should. Yeah. That he can just jump 3 feet forward every time he's doing something. Yeah.
And just waste all those apartments.
Yep.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Mark, what would you would probably use it. I want to say something with like the mummers. Would you do something with the mummers?
No. Well, the obvious thing is to let's rob the rich and take the money out of the banks.
Sure.
Number one, Gritty. For sure.
Meet Gritty, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll pop into Gritty's house. No, essentially it'd be travel. I mean, that was one of the moments in this movie that made me chuckle was when they did the plane ride to Rome. I was like, how fidgety does he have to be on that plane that he's on there for 10 hours?
That's a good point.
And they bring up your point later when talking to Jamie Bell and he asks him, why are you walking?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, my thing would be like, sitting around and going, oh, you know what? I feel going to London today. And just doing that. It would just be that. I'd be more closer to less of an asshole version of Hayden Christensen's character. I would be more secretive about it as well.
Sure.
I think that's got to be the number one key.
Yeah.
And what would you do? I'm curious.
I would look for jobs outside of my job market. There we go.
Why would you work?
Well, I guess I could. That's true. I mean, fuck, I don't know.
He's a slave to capitalism, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone else is like, I want to travel. I'm going to rob banks. You know what? I got to work.
The travel thing is easy.
I feel like I would work too because I would get bored. I need like the structure. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd be a dick like this guy. Like.
You just abuse the power.
Yeah. I would find some way to rob banks and just use that. I think I would use it to pay off people's medical bills until Medicare for all passes. I think that's what I would do. And I would donate to progressive candidates.
Wow.
I'm spewing a lot of propaganda right now, but it's important. It's important.
Oh, no, we fully endorse ACAB on this show. We've said it plenty of times.
Yeah, we don't shy away necessarily, so feel free. This is an open platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you'd be paying for a lot of people's medical bills for a long time, I think, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I'd have to rob like 89 banks.
Right, but you'd be great at it. Everything you do is awesome, so I can't imagine you not being good at robbing banks. Yeah. So I mean, take that as you will. You know, if it's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but I think you'd be a swell bank robber.
So then, after surfing, David goes and has lunch on top of the Sphinx. But meanwhile, Samuel L. Jackson is in the jungle murdering another jumper, because only God should have that sort of power, he says.
Do you think Samuel L. Jackson could have delivered that line better?
I thought this movie did a pretty good job of making Samuel L. Jackson kind of lame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to do.
It's a bit of a throwaway line, yeah. He doesn't seem to really believe it.
It seems to be his character's catchphrase.
He says it twice, yeah.
Yeah. And it seems to be when he's about to kill a jumper.
Yeah.
It's weird because they're known as paladins, right? Samuel L. Jackson's group are paladins. But we don't know, in the movie, we don't know much about this organization.
Yeah.
So, so are they religious zealots?
That's what Jamie Bell. Jamie Bell has an exposition scene towards the end, maybe like with 20 minutes left, where he basically says that. So like the Inquisition and the witch trials and everything is basically revolving around this war between the paladins and the jumpers.
Yeah, I remember him saying that, and I remember him being like, okay, but the Inquisition, like, they killed a lot of Jews. Like, like you can't rewrite that. The witch trials, whatever, that's murky. But there's like documented history of the world part 1 has a song about this. You can't rewrite that.
So is this where we find out Jewish people were chosen to be the jumpers? Is that what it was?
Maybe.
Like you were the first jumpers, the Jewish people? That's a hell of a gift.
I gotta ask my dad about that. He'll be like, then why are we so bad at sports? This doesn't make sense.
We don't necessarily go through David's backstory or religion so much in this. Maybe he was Jewish.
Maybe. That would have been great. Like at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, where you find out Peter is half like celestial. Like, oh, David, you're half Jewish.
Yeah.
So that's why I have this power.
Like Moses was able to do all this stuff, and like, that'd be great.
And then Samuel L. Jackson has some sort of electrical lasso that keeps jumpers from jumping. And he gets a call saying that they've got to.
It's like a space heater.
Yeah, it's like a space heater / magic lasso that has like cattle, harness on it. It's weird looking.
Yeah, it's not as badass as they thought it looked, I think.
It's not very cool because then he winds up just stabbing the dude with like.
Yeah.
With a sacrificial blade, I guess. It just looks like a rusty knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gets a call saying they've got a lead on the bank robbery that happened 8 years ago, apparently. He knew exactly. He's been trying to track him down for 8 years.
Talk about holding a grudge.
Yeah. David makes it back to his apartment, and Samuel L. Jackson is there. He's been searching for him for 8 years. His name is Roland. David tells him he'd like him to leave and then has trouble with the door, which I'm not sure if it was just supposed to be a joke or he literally forgot how to use a door.
Like that actually happened, you mean?
Yeah, or was it just locked? It's like, oh, I forgot it was locked. Or was it just literally how do I work this thing?
Hayden Christensen forgot how to use doors.
Yeah.
That would have been.
That was there were other scenes in the movie where he knew how to use them. When he exited and entered the bar and whatever. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. It's very wishy-washy.
So Roland tells him he knows who he is and shocks him with an electric wand. They fight, David trying to jump while Roland tries to tie him with the electrical lasso. Eventually, David manages to jump into his walk-in closet, cut the rope, grab a whole bunch of cash, and jump. Then he jumps into his childhood bedroom, and his dad hears a noise coming from his bedroom, assumes it's him, but the door is locked so he can't see him. So right before he jumps out, David says he's not crazy, it's him. And then he leaves. Back in Ann Arbor, David goes to Millie's parents' house and finds out that Millie is still in town, though she got her own place and she works at a local bar. So he goes to the bar and stares at her for a while before he goes to leave. But then
That's
Bully
so
Mark...
creepy.
Yeah.
She recognizes him immediately, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly, yeah.
And again, I don't understand how that works. But then she calls him out for being a creeper in front of another creep.
Yeah. There's there's meta creeping.
Yeah. Like why are you calling out this creep in front of this guy who's way creepier because he's drunk and slapping your ass? I feel like you're really asking for trouble here.
It's so annoying.
Double the creep factor, not good.
Her whole entire connection to either guy in this story is I don't know what it is. Or is she dating Mark? Have they dated? Why does she not really freak out when he slaps her ass? And then she just fully accepts going to, we're getting to that next, going to Rome with David after seeing him for the first time after 8 years, thinking he's dead, going, yeah, sure.
Yep.
I'll go to Rome.
Listen, you get a free trip to Rome.
True. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
When in Rome, right, guys?
I would, if Hayden Christensen walked through my door right now and asked me to go to Rome with him, I probably would.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would. Yeah.
He's very handsome.
Right. I don't know what he'd be doing here, but listen.
Is he coming in with a rushed kind of? I can't explain. We gotta go to Rome.
Okay.
If it's like that, I'm definitely in.
Yeah. Oh, if anyone comes into my house saying we gotta go, I'm immediately going with them. No questions asked.
Yeah, why else would you be here if shit really wasn't going down? Especially where I live. You would drive through all this traffic. You would go through Staten Island to get here. Shit is serious.
Right. Yeah. No time for questions.
So he goes to leave, but then Bully Mark stops him, recognizing him, announcing to the bar that Rice Bowl is back, baby. No one ever questions how David managed to get out of the ice. I'm assuming the police, fire department, paramedics were called. I'm assuming the lake was dragged. There must have been some sort of open investigation, but no.
Yeah,
got a funeral.
Yep. Empty casket funeral. Anyway, Millie pops up and says, David, weren't you going to say hi before you left? And then he stammers and Mark grabs her ass, so David punches him in the face, and then they have a fist fight. They exchange blows, it spills out to the alley, and David jumps himself and Mark into the bank vault and then jumps himself out. David's enormous dick. That's a dick move.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where else should he have jumped him?
I mean,
probably not jumped him anywhere.
Really? Probably not. Sure. Definitely not into a bank vault. Yeah. So he's you're going to prison for 20 years.
Good point. Well, yeah, I think what I took away from this is that, A, David is not a hero, and B, he's very good at getting his ass kicked in this movie. He's not a fighter.
Yeah. Well, that is what's interesting. It's he has no other powers.
Yeah.
Right, like Jess, you're an X-Men fan.
Yeah.
At least Nightcrawler, he can teleport, but he could also fight and use swords. So he makes himself
other
useful.
Skills. This guy he's just a dick who can get out quick. Right.
Imagine if he was on the X-Men. All right, he teleports the team to wherever. See you later, and then he's gone.
Yeah, they're fighting Juggernaut or something, and they're like, all right, Wolverine, we need your claws, we need Storm to get him with lightning, we need Rogue just to touch him, and this guy can leave.
Right.
If things get hairy, I can take you guys to Rome.
Yeah.
Just letting
He's
you know
like,
that.
listen, I can't help here, but I can take us to the top of the Empire State Building and beat all the lines. So.
Right. He'd be very useful at Disney.
Yeah. You don't need to get a reservation at Rayo's. I got you. We're going. It's fine.
I also just realized as we were talking about it that he actually jumped them into a bank vault in New York City, which makes it even more of a dick move.
It's probably the same one, right?
Yeah. Just, he takes
Just 1,000
jumps
miles
this guy
away.
from Ann Arbor, Michigan to a bank vault in New York City and then just leaves him there.
Yeah.
Like, also with that, like, when the cops were investigating it, don't you think they would have looked into, like, this guy's credit card records and been like, all right, so where did you fly in from?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. And there's no trace of those men anywhere. And this is like, everyone else is being chased by the NSA. This would never go down.
Right.
You know
Yeah. There would be some record of him going from Michigan to New York. Someone would have seen it.
Yeah, I guess Roland would have been like a good like witness for this guy. It's like, no, he didn't do it. But like it's just
and
he was
at
like,
one point
fuck
he
you,
does
dude, I don't
say,
know you.
like, he wants like I don't know if it was like the cameras or something, but he wants like all the footage from a certain point. But I don't think it was in reference to Mark. I think it was just in reference to David.
Yeah,
but he could have exonerated Mark if he, did a thorough job. But
because he asked for the cameras when David's 15, so that first time. So this is Mark, but he could have been like, yeah, this guy didn't do anything, let him go.
Yeah.
Not with the NSA. But he's like, no, I got what I wanted out of you. You're gonna sit in this. You're gonna die in this prison. So
yeah.
Roland is the bad guy, I guess. So David and Millie talk. He mentions that he is in banking and that she responds to that he failed algebra. And then he says he wants to travel and he's thinking about Rome and she should come with him. Then a tragically hip song plays, which is only notable to me because it wound up being the theme song to the Netflix series Anne with an E. Tragically Hip are a very Canadian band and Anne with an E is a very Canadian show. Hashtag save Anne with an E.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. Roland knocks out a cop and walks into the interrogation room where the cops are holding Mark. He gets information on who David is and where he can be found, and then just leaves Mark to rot. After they check into their hotel, Millie basically tells David that she doesn't believe him because he was an idiot growing up and there's no way he's smart enough to be in finance. And then they fuck. And I guess you think David's got like A+ pull-out game because he could jump out?
Oh. Wow. Or can he jump his semen?
Probably. Like off the top of the Sphinx.
Right, like he's getting ready to finish and he just shoots it like out the building essentially. It's just like people like walking by just like, what the hell was that?
Oh God.
It was definitely bird poop.
Hilarious.
Could have been anything else.
Right.
Well, even he could just jump himself the fuck out of there. Be like, oh no, figure it out.
That's true.
Deadbeat. Maury can't track him down. No one knows where he is.
Oh man,
Jump her also to the top of a set of stairs too.
Oh. So Jess, are you saying? Are right? Like, oh, we have to make a quick stop. Whoop.
Yeah. Why did you jump us to Planned Parenthood? What's going on here?
Where am I? So Jess, over under 5 kids that he has.
Oh, definitely. Well, yeah,
Around
I would
the world.
say over. Because, like, look how fast he just banged and left that blonde chick.
He definitely has over 5.
Yeah, he's definitely got a litter somewhere.
And David's the kind of guy who would probably pride himself on having a child on every continent.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
So yeah, he's definitely done some ungentlemanly things, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and also, like, it does seem like he never really takes responsibility for anything that happens to him, and he's just kind of a dick.
100% his MO.
Yeah.
It's
not my
It's
fault.
so funny because he seemed like such a nice kid when he was 15.
Yeah,
You
he
know?
was very sweet. That was, like, a very thoughtful gift, you know?
Yeah.
And then he was like, all right, one bad thing happened to me. Granted, it was, like, really bad if he was, like, drowning. But, like, so I'm just going to be a dick forever.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
he turned very quickly.
Yeah.
So they fuck, and the fray plays because it's 2008.
Yep.
And then they explore Rome. They have lunch and try to go to the Coliseum, but it winds up being closed. Meanwhile, Jamie Bell is perched like a gargoyle across the street.
I don't know why that was funny to me. That scene.
So
I had almost the same reaction you did.
Yeah. So David jumps into the Coliseum in order to open up a gate, and they explore the Coliseum. And he opens another gate in order to go in further. Apparently, they were given access to shoot in the Coliseum for 3 days between 6:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. They had to use natural light. They couldn't set up any equipment. So then he jumps again to get onto the arena grounds. It's just like one after another, very similar jumping and unlocking gates. And then he walks.
That's like a Karen move to like, oh, I don't want to follow the rules. I'm a white man. Let me just do what I want. I was so annoyed.
Yeah, big time. But again, 2008. So.
Yeah. I was like, this poor security guard is gonna get chewed out by his boss, lose his job.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
But at least Hayden Christensen got to get some more from Rachel Bilson.
Yeah.
And that's really all that matters. It's like, fuck this security guard. I'm trying to get laid again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's desecrate a national monument.
Right. Well, Jamie Bell does a perfectly good job of that himself.
Yeah, yes. As he walks into Jamie Bell pretending to take a piss in the Coliseum. And he gives what sounds like a threat to David and points to the Paladins heading in their direction. Then a fight ensues while Millie is on the other side of a locked door. David gets the shit beat out of him with electrical batons while Jamie Bell fights the Paladins. Eventually, the Paladins are disposed of, and a security guard sees them and goes to runs for the police. Jamie Bell jumps with one of the Paladins in tow, and David jumps through Jamie Bell's quote-unquote jump scar to some sort of hideout. Then David jumps back to the Coliseum to meet up with Millie, and he rushes her out. But the cops show up and arrest David. And in custody, the cops ask David where the body is, but he tells them that he doesn't know what they're talking about. The cop leaves to get the magistrate. Then David's mom walks in and gives him the key to the handcuffs, which I'm not sure why he can't just jump out of them.
Diane Lane.
And then he tries to catch up with her, and she leaves him behind. He then jumps the cop to the Sphinx because, again, they just had a lot of time they were allowed to shoot there, and leaves him there.
Another dick move.
This is the time when they had night shot available for the Sphinx.
Yeah.
So gotta use it.
Could have literally jumped him anywhere in Italy.
I wonder if it was just like the people that run the Sphinx. They just had like a terabyte hard drive full of stock footage of it. It was like, yeah, no one ever asks for this shit. You guys want it?
Yeah.
Go nuts.
Finally.
Also, like with Rachel Bilson's character, it's like she didn't know he could jump until like near the end. So it's like you see this guy has all this money and he is really good at picking locks. Like, wouldn't you be concerned? Like, wouldn't that worry you? And then he said something. Wait, I wrote a note for myself because it unsettled me so much. Let me find it.
She's more concerned with his algebra than the fact that, he could just pick locks.
The fact that, like, he might be a criminal. Oh, he said nothing's off limits when they were in the Coliseum, and he's not taking no for an answer. And I was like, this man is a sexual predator.
Yeah. Yeah, like, good call.
In the beginning, his landlord was like, I told you no weird stuff. And I was like, oh, this is taking a real dark turn in my mind.
Yeah, he took that to heart, I guess. He was like, "Oh, I'll show you weird stuff."
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, was that a challenge?"
Right. Oh, now that is true. Like, how many problematic situations has he put other women in? I mean, not to say that he absolutely has, but
he absolutely has.
But there's a good chance he has. Yeah.
I mean, it's surely because he's living a life where he believes that there are no rules that he has to follow. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it stands to reason that includes
women.
That's
a good
of
point.
Consent. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, he probably he probably looks up the age of consent of the countries he's going.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's got 15.
Yeah.
Perfect. But at the same time, he's so boring. I can't imagine. Like, they didn't even bother to show the conversation that he had with the lady in London Right? It's just like, oh, like, do you live in London? Smile, fuck. And that's how boring he probably is. Like, we can't show this.
I do think that's actually like a very common thing with people who are rich but didn't earn their money. They're just boring. Everything is boring to them because everything is easy. They have no good stories to tell, you know. Right. I'm just basing this off of, I have an old coworker. I went to dinner with her for her birthday, and like she comes from money, and she has like a bunch of friends who have houses in the Hamptons. They're all loaded, and it was the most tedious night of my life. It was like the most insipid, boring shit. And I was just like, they were just like complaining about the wine. And I was just like, listen, I ordered a Mountain Dew. I don't fucking care about this.
It doesn't have the earthy undertones. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was like, I can't. I was like, I want
1 star.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did research to see if there was an between the lines writing of why he goes to the Sphinx all the time, but Egypt has regular age of consent of 18.
That would have been a great way to like crack the code, Mark.
Yeah, that would have been
15.
hilarious.
Too bad he hasn't been to Japan too much.
Yeah. Well, he does say he has a few jump points in Japan, actually.
Okay, so there we go. We got it.
David rushes Millie into a cab and then to the airport. Millie now doesn't trust David, and she asks to see what's in his backpack, which he reveals to be a shit ton of money. And then David ditches her, making her get on the plane by herself. Roland, meanwhile, gets the call that the Paladins lost David at the Coliseum, but meanwhile, Roland is on the way to visit David's dad. So he gets into the house by saying he's IRS, and he wants to talk to him about his son David. Roland starts questioning him about how long ago he saw David, which is 8 years, and asks about David's mother, not since David was 5. And then basically, David's dad tells Roland to go fuck himself, and we cut out.
So Michael Rooker delivers the most badass line in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson goes, "No, you won't. No, I won't." You know, because he knows he's gonna die. You know, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, "I'll let you know if I hear anything from him." He's like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Nope, I'm not."
Michael Rooker, national treasure.
I feel like like only he can really give that gusto to that line, you know.
So great.
Yeah, and he stares down Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have the balls, I don't think.
No, I don't think any one of us in this podcast would stare down Mr. Jackson.
Yeah.
And can we say this is the first time where Samuel L. Jackson sees the photo of David's mom, who is also part of the Paladins, but that's never brought up again?
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah, why doesn't he use that as like leverage?
It makes no sense. And how is she still involved with them after Roland, all that happens? It's a big plot hole.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like Scientologists, where like if you're not with them, you're against them. So she's like, well, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, you got to let the family go, man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's another thing I was watching during quarantine. It was like Leah Remini's like Scientology in the Aftermath, and I'm like, Jesus.
Terrifying.
I was like, first of all, where are these people getting all this money? They literally sign like 100,000-year contracts or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
A little bit of a grift, I think.
Yeah.
It's a bold claim, Dan.
Really going out on a ledge there.
So David jumps back to Jamie Bell's hideout, whose name I guess is Griffin. I don't know if we ever receive it as in my name's Griffin. It just winds up that David knows it. And then he just gives an exposition dump about jumpers versus paladins, basically saying that the Inquisition, witch hunt, etc. were all a result of the ongoing war between the paladins and the jumpers. And paladins specifically are religious extremists.
I couldn't tell you if his name was ever introduced because at this point, this is when the captions were completely off the fucking rails.
Yeah. They were like 15 seconds ahead.
Yeah. Even if he did, I couldn't even rely on that for this movie. Yeah. And you would need it with the way Jamie Bell spoke in this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, like I think I only knew it because like I paused it at one point, and like on Amazon Prime, it like has like the credits.
Yeah.
Like on the bottom bar, but that's the only reason I knew his name.
So David goes back to his dad's house and finds him on the floor dead in the kitchen, and then jumps him to the emergency room. We never find out if he's alive or dead. I'm assuming he dies, but there's never any resolve to that. So David jumps into the prison cell where they're holding Mark and asks him who he told and what he told them. Basically, Mark tells him that he told Roland everything. So David goes back to Griffin's house and tries to recruit Griffin to help him take out Roland. Griffin says it's impossible and then jumps. So David follows him to Japan through his jump scar and then just follows him through the streets. And then David tries to talk to him about comic books, talking like he has never talked about a comic book before in his life. Have you ever heard of a Marvel team up?
The Marvel team up. Oh, God.
Which I guess this is all ahead of its time because 4 months later, Iron Man would come out. Then Griffin steals a Mercedes from a dealership and they go jump driving through the streets of Japan, which is the most tedious scene in this movie. Accomplishes nothing except Griffin mentions that he knew a guy that died trying to jump an entire building, which is foreshadowing in all caps.
I hated how there's 20 minutes left in the movie and we're now just kind of getting into the pairing of these two.
Yeah.
It seemed like they rushed it at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you saying the movie should have been longer?
This will be the first time where I say that it feels like it probably should have been.
Yeah, maybe closer to 2 hours.
Not that I want it to be longer. I thought 89 minutes was chef's kiss in terms of time, the length of time. But there seems like there was a lot of stuff that I could have learned more about. It definitely felt like this was a movie that was supposed to be a series of films. And then the Marvel Juggernaut got launched 4 months later, and then nobody was like, yeah, let's revisit this Jumper cinematic universe.
Right. Yeah. Hayden Christensen shaking his fist in the air. Damn you, Favreau.
And I also say that this is probably a story that is probably more primed for a series than a movie.
Sure. So they jump to Detroit International Airport, and Griffin agrees to help him take on Roland. Millie's flight landed an hour beforehand, so Griffin goes to prepare at his hideout while David goes looking for Millie. She's not at work, so he goes to her apartment and basically breaks in. She's there, upset that she got left in the airport, which makes sense. And Millie wants David to leave, and then Roland shows up. So David confesses everything and shows her he can jump. He then jumps both of them into Griffin's hideout to get away from Roland. David goes to talk to Griffin, and Griffin is pissed because Roland has a machine that could follow jumpers into the wormholes. So Roland and some of his goons do exactly that. They jump into the wormhole. David jumps Millie to the middle of nowhere to keep her safe. While hiding in Griffin's place, David sees that Griffin has some sort of surveillance photo of his mom amid all the other documents on his Pepe Sylvia board. And I guess he forgets he's hiding because then he just shouts out while he's hiding, "Mom," loud and clear, and gets captured by one of the electrical lassos immediately afterwards. So Roland tells David that all jumpers eventually turn bad, though David said that he might be different. As Roland goes in for the kill shot, Griffin shows up with a flamethrower and chases Roland out. It's kind of cool. Then Griffin jumps into New York and grabs a tour bus and jumps with it back to Roland, who narrowly dives out of the way. Roland then goes after Millie, but Griffin again shows up with a flamethrower again, chases Roland out of the hideout.
He should have showed up with something else, right? It should have upgraded from there.
Yeah, because he uses it, then he's got to drop it in order to go back to New York to get a tour bus to throw, and then he has to put it back on. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad they cut that out, though.
Well, what would be the next upgrade? Would it be like a grenade launcher or something?
Yeah, an RPG.
Yeah.
Right. That would have been pretty badass. Just like he's sitting there with it on his shoulder. Stupid catchphrase. Shoot the rocket.
Didn't he turn bad, though? Because he did a lot of bad things. I don't even count robbing the bank, but I count, like, framing the drunk guy for doing it.
Oh, yeah. He's 100% evil.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson was right. Like, you turned bad.
You're kind of a piece of shit.
Right. You like, we can put aside the whole, yes, we would rob banks probably.
Yeah.
It's still theft. Like, as much as we would want to help people, and we are all good people here, wink, we definitely, it's still a crime to rob banks. So
Yeah.
Sure, but they're insured.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
In terms of
money back that, you know, we paid into a bailout that didn't benefit us. Just whatever. Regressing.
In the grand scheme, like in the letter of the law, it is still rob. So
yeah,
it is
on
crime.
paper it's wrong, but we know.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We're all good people. But David is not doing all of the things that, you know, Jess and Mark had mentioned. He's hoarding that money. I think he even went into casinos and took their chips.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even have a job either, like I would have done.
Right. Yeah, he wouldn't be a contributing member of society.
I'd pay my taxes on time. You know, it'd be so much easier because I just jump right there.
Right. Yeah, that's you. So you would still use it to be a functioning member.
Yeah, just get there. Get to places easier.
Yeah, that'd be great because if you had to be at work at 9, you could literally wake up at like 8:50.
It's like literally what I do right now. Now I'm working from home.
First day on time.
So Millie cuts David out of the restraints and tells him to bring her home. And then Hayden Christensen then gives the second worst speech he's ever made to a woman on screen. Then Griffin shows up with Roland's device that helps him jump, but just before the wormhole closes, Roland manages to shoot his harness through the wormhole and pulls Millie through it back to her apartment. And Griffin reveals that he has a bomb that he's going to use to kill Roland, but it will probably kill Millie too. So we get an extended fight scene with David and Griffin fighting over the detonator. We go to Egypt, New York, Rome, eventually winding up in war-torn Chechnya. Chechnya does not make it out too well in this movie.
Yeah.
Feel like a low blow.
Bill's been to Chechnya before, apparently.
He hates it. Yeah,
he hates it. Would you go to Chechnya for? What's in Chechnya?
Maybe it's 14 there, the age of consent.
Yeah, Griffin knows.
Oh, totally does. Yeah. He knows all the places that legalize prostitution. He's got a sex list. A jumper sex list.
Instead of all the locations that David has, it's just women for Griffin.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a little unfortunate. That's dark.
I mean, he's been jumping. I mean, he's been living in that hideout for who knows how long.
Yeah, that is true.
Men are the worst. I think that's what it comes down to. But I can't imagine. You know, maybe I'm wrong, and I don't want to speak for women, but I can't imagine that's what the first priority for women who could jump would be, right? Just like, I'm just gonna go bang a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, no, like I feel like women are so inherently insecure that they would be like, I feel like half of women would be like, oh, I'll jump to like a plastic surgeon's office and try to fix myself. That way someone might like me someday.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like that's how sad our existences are. So
Man.
sad. Or like I would jump to a bank, rob it, buy a house with a big yard, and then get a bunch of dog friends for my dog.
Oh, that's a really good one. Why didn't any of us think of
I wouldn't
that?
buy them.
Man. Jess she answered it. That is the answer. There is no other answer.
There you go. So in Chechnya, David and Griffin fight. Eventually, David traps Griffin on a high-tension power line and gets rid of the detonator. David heads back to Millie's apartment and jumps in, and immediately gets restrained by the electric harness as he tries to free Millie. But David does what we are foreshadowed to know that he might be able to do. He jumps the whole goddamn apartment in what I believe is the body of water that he fell into in the beginning, maybe?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's what the connection is.
Yeah. And then into the Ann Arbor Library. Then David jumps with Roland to some sort of cave at Horseshoe Bend, and then jumps away, leaving Roland without much way of getting off. And he goes to, and then we cut.
I mean, you mean getting out, not getting off, right?
Well, getting off the rock, but yes.
Samuel L. Jackson, well, here we are again. Pants down.
He cut his hands off too, so I forgot to mention that part.
Did he?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say that's really dark for this movie.
Then he goes to pay a visit to his mom, and Kristen Stewart shows up and is his half sister. It's so weird seeing her in this role because it's like I saw her name and I was like, oh, well, maybe she'll have a big part. And like she's literally 2 seconds
like
in.
2 lines, right?
Yeah.
It's a quick paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this was right before Twilight, right?
Yeah, it would have been filmed before Twilight, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Or at the same time.
Yeah, because I think this was, because Twilight, I think the first Twilight came out in 2008, right?
Yep.
Yes, this was probably filmed like before it, but came out near it. So they were probably using that hype.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Because why would you just choose her for? Yeah, that would make sense, right? Because you're not going to choose her just for a bit role. There had to have been a little bit more of a strategy there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Then his mom tells him she left because she's a paladin and she either had to leave or kill him. And then she says
she's giving. You didn't. You could have just not done either of those things. What would have happened to you?
Right. She doesn't seem like a crazy religious person.
And
that's why I was like, maybe Samuel L. Jackson was right this whole time because this guy's a dick.
Right. Yeah. I kind of rooted for Samuel L. Jackson. But so she left him, but he didn't start jumping until he was 15.
Right. I don't know. Maybe
she left when he was 5.
I think she said his first jump was when he was 5, but like I don't think he knew that he did it.
Right.
Like he didn't realize what he did, but she knew what he did. I think.
Interesting.
I could be making that up.
No, that would make sense.
What happens when we don't have a Jumper 2? We don't know any of these answers.
Yeah, we can't confirm.
So then she says that she's going to give him a head start and tells him goodbye. Sounds an awful lot like this would be a franchise, but unfortunately not. And then him and Millie jump to some place warm, and that is the end of Jumper. I didn't hate it. It got tedious at points. I also understand why this is more or less forgotten.
Yeah. It wasn't terrible. It was just there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. That's what we come to expect with Dan's picks when they're like within this with this specific decade. For whatever reason, Dan loves the 2000s, and it's just a shitty time.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I think this movie had a lot of potential, and I would have made this movie better by making it a horror movie.
Ooh.
I think it would have been better as a creepy stalker because Hayden Christensen has that down pat in this movie.
Yeah.
It would have been cool if he's just like stalking Rachel Bilson's character, Millie, and wherever she goes, he's there. And like maybe people think she's crazy. Samuel L. Jackson is a detective, and he's trying to figure out like, well, like has she gone insane or is this like really happening? Like the whole
would have been like the Invisible Man.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so good at creating that tension of, is Elizabeth Moss crazy or is this stuff actually happening? And like who would believe that a man can jump anywhere in the world? Like you can leave it as, you know, he had a crazy obsession with her as a teenager, and she rebuked him a bunch of times, and he quote unquote wound up dying in the river. But you know, strange things keep happening to her, and you know, is it David? Is it not David? But yeah, I think that would have been cool.
That would have been really good.
Right, because like the whole Paladin story is, to me, it's so cliched. It's like, oh, this clandestine organization is trying to wipe out these people. It's like, okay, but it's just like a bland action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they could have done more with it, and I feel like they should have explained more about the Paladin, like the ongoing like war between them, because that's like sounds like it's a big deal, you know. And they were just like, oh yeah, this is the thing. Okay.
Yeah, they gloss over it.
Yeah,
Dan, that's a lot better than my answer, which was going to be just recast Eminem and the rest of D12 in this movie.
D12.
That's pretty
Both
good.
solid choices.
Yeah.
I would have done it like Catch Me If You Can sort of thing. Like maybe he's being chased by someone that's a human It was like, oh, well, I'm here. Well, catch me if you can. And then it's like, no, rats. Now I got to go find them.
Yeah, no, I think that would have been like a little cat and mouse game.
Yeah, a fun romp of some guy that jumps through wormholes.
Yeah, that would be a little better, I think. I think that would be infinitely more interesting.
Yeah.
I think it would have been interesting, too, to do it from Rachel Bilson's viewpoint, where it's almost like, you know the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's told from the point of view of his girlfriend who didn't know he was a murderer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she's like, yeah, so my boyfriend goes missing and he manages to get into locked places a lot. Like, how does this, you know? I think it would have been interesting to see her try to piece that together and then just be like, oh yeah, he is a criminal, but not in the way that you think. You know?
Yeah, like almost like
he's not
defending
using a
him,
bobby
right?
pin; he's using magic.
Right. So it's more, it's more mystical and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have been cool, because then she's like in the Ted Bundy movie that she kind of defends him at first.
Yeah.
Until she starts to piece it together, like, holy shit, this guy's serious trouble.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that would have been cool. Like Rachel Bilson is basically no, like yeah, he does some like out of the ordinary things, but like he's not hurting anybody, or
I know he's a banker, but he's not good at math, but he's still a banker. It's fine. You can be a banker.
Like, not that means anything, right? Like, oh my god.
And by the way, they skipped over the entire way to button that joke with Jamie Bell making a joke at why they're an hour late for her flight.
Oh yeah.
Bad at telling time.
Yeah.
So good.
All right, I think this is all we have to talk about on, what is the name of this movie? All of a sudden, Jumper. I was going to say Pusher, because Push was another movie.
that was another movie I was thinking of choosing, by the way.
Is that the Chris Evans, Dakota Fanning movie?
That is. Yeah.
Okay.
Do not pick that next week, Mark. I heard that. I heard that in your voice.
We're doing Push next week.
So funny.
You guys want to plug anything? Jess, you got anything you want to plug?
I am launching a podcast someday. I'm like stockpiling episodes first called You're the Problem, and that's going to be fun. So stay tuned for that whenever I decide to release it, which may not ever happen, but it's being prepared just in case.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Really promising stuff.
So the name is You're the Problem?
You're the Problem. I have a SoundCloud page. There's just nothing on it. So, okay. But you can find it there. There's a graphic. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely give that a shout out once it appears.
Yeah.
Once it exists, you know.
All right, guys. Why don't you plug your shit?
Again, Diaquino122 on Twitter. Again, pointless. No one follows me. You do. Yes, and I think you're like my biggest fan on there, so I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Our Stranger Damies Real Play D&D account at Stranger Damies. Follow us there. I've been Zack Snyder has lived rent-free in my head for the past few weeks, and all I do is complain about it, so you might want to wait a week or two until it, it calms down. But yeah,
for both of his accounts.
That is true. Oh, I want to apologize to my friends because I'm sure when I message like, can you believe what these people are saying? Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Mark, what about you?
Yep. So we have our D&D podcast, as Dan mentioned, Stranger Damies. The podcast episode airs every other Wednesday for the sessions, and then the in between is my interviews with the players. We're hoping to get like a Twitter mailbag at some point in there for either just myself or the players. So you can find that Stranger Damies anywhere you get podcast. We now stream it live on Twitch. It's at twitch.tv/GameVaultPod. It'll be every other Sunday. So if you follow the Twitter account, the next Sunday it says it's coming up. It's every other Sunday from there because I think this will be an off week. It'll be after we've done a session when this airs. So be on the lookout for that. We do the whole session on Twitch. And don't want to follow along with the podcast, you can just get spoiled by watching us have sound problems and then take 5-10 minute breaks and stuff like that. So We all do that live. Then we have the Game Vault Pod on Twitch, comes from our podcast, the Game Vault Podcast, which airs every other Monday. So be sure to check that out, the Game Vault Podcast, where you get your podcasts. I hate that we put podcasts at the end of that. And then you can find it on Instagram, Twitter, at Game Vault Pod. And then we stream 5 nights a week on that Twitch channel, Wednesdays, Thursdays, alternating Friday and Saturdays, Sunday, and Monday. Be on the lookout for that.
Great. And this is They Call This Movie. You can find us on Spreaker and wherever you get your podcast just by searching They Call This Movie. So that's Stitcher, iTunes, everywhere you get your podcast. We are the Main Damie. We got themaindamie.com as our main website where we post this show as well as all of our other shows. And in theory, we post articles as well. And that's also our social. So Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find us at the Main Damie. We're also part of Geek Vibes Nation. You can find that at gbnation.com on wherever you get your podcasts and all socials just by searching Geek Vibes Nation. Tons of great shows there. If you're into geek stuff, there is surely a show for you. And that's going to wrap it up for this week. I want to thank, once again, Jess Sager, our guest, for coming on and talking about Jumper. Once again,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, great show. Hope to have you on again sometime.
Yeah.
So this is going to wrap it up. The movie was Jumper, and the director was Doug Liman. So for Dan Aquino, Mark Myers, and Jess Sager, this is Anthony Del Vecchio saying, Doug Liman, you certainly made a movie, didn't you?